Hello. Sincere, come in. Welcome to my personal library. My personal library. As usual, I am your host, Bowiehunter, here to give you a special start of series disclaimer. As you are well aware, I mostly censor my language and my standard content. In this series, this will not occur. If this bothers you in any way, I advise not watching. If you do not have a problem with this, then watch to your heart's content. And now, we go to our first story. Please enjoy this analysis of Jeff the Killer. Okay, we should be going. In theory, hypothetically, everything should be working.
In current running, fuck, I lost where I was going with that.
Now supposedly, I'm taking measures to make sure this gets done. Unlike a certain podcast that maybe got lost that we won't mention at all.
In the arms of an angel.
Okay.
Yeah. Rip, never forgetty, mom's spaghetti.
Yeah, so before we start, I decided we should start these types of videos with something lighthearted, something rather amusing or mildly amusing, just so that we don't feel like killing ourselves before we're done with this. So, do you remember that horribly ugly gold suit that I had my character in GTA 5 wear when we recorded that one video?
Heck. I think so?
Okay.
Vaguely?
Okay. I found out that it's an actual thing that you can buy. It's on Amazon right now. It's
Please
don't worry.
Save your wallet.
It's like $60 or $70. I'll give you the picture. There you go. There it is in all its glory.
Wow. Oh, fucking Christ. It's like imitation snakeskin, but worse. Like, at that rate, you might as well just wear a orange like hazard vest around. Because that's essentially what you're gonna look like actually wearing.
Where would you have to live where that would be the thing you would usually see? Like, my immediate reaction is California, right? Like, they wear some weird shit.
California or New York, those would be my bets, because everybody's all about, and I say this with air quotes for those who can't tell by my voice, fashion. Yeah, I don't get it. No, that doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Actually, on that comment, I actually had somebody stop me, and they were like, "Are those air quotes I hear?" And I'm like, "Bitch, they might be."
All right, so we are reading the fan favorite Jeff the Killer to start, because it's such a great example of what not to do in writing, especially if you're trying to tell a story. Before we start, I think we should give our credibility, because apparently that's a thing that's going around the internet now. So how exactly are we qualified to criticize this?
Well, you see, we're people. I can understand people who like, oh yeah, you should have qualifications before you critique things, but in reality, in my opinion, everybody is allowed to critique something.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a game developer to be able to critique a video game.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you're the end user. If you don't enjoy it as an end user, you are allowed to critique it. That's the entire point of the system. That's why they say you vote with your dollar. And if you go ahead and you buy something and you don't like it, you're free to critique it. While like high fashion is a thing, that's not the fashion everyday people wear. What people wear every day is what sells.
Yeah.
People kind of decide what they're willing to pay for. However, I have a degree and working on the second one in writing. So, you may say I might know a thing or two. I may actually have what you would call a qualification.
We have both written. I have been writing stories since middle school and going on and on. And a good example of what not to do is, or what to do, in contrast to what this story is. The first thing I ever wrote was garbage. It just did not make sense. It was way too long. And I never let it out in public. It stayed locked away. It stayed away.
Chloroform it, bury it, leave no evidence.
Yeah.
Never happened if nobody can find it.
Exactly. So, we both have written far better than what we are reading on this show. So, with that said,
this is going to be the cringening 2017.
it's going to be something that we can say that much. When was the last time that you read this? Because I know you said you've read it before.
Shit. Let's see. Trying to remember, because there was a point in my life where I was like, I've kind of always been on the fence about horror stuff. Like, I like certain things, I don't like other things. Like, my first love of horror was creature features.
Mm-hmm.
So stuff like Jaws, Alien, like anything that had a spooky creature. That was the antagonist. At some point in high school, I splashed a little bit in middle school and checked some things out here and there, but didn't really actually spend a lot of time on there.
Yeah.
It wasn't until high school. It was for a couple weeks, I was just on creepypasta all the time. I didn't read all of the classics, but I read a bunch of different stuff, and I was also really picky at the time, so I was like, this is written really badly. So it's I spent more time searching for something good than I actually did reading, I think, by the end of it all. But I want to say, let's see, I want to say it was maybe 2013. So some 4 or 5 years ago.
All right, so it's been a while, and you have gotten some new experience in writing. So.
Oh yeah, lots. Holy shit.
Okay.
All experience.
All right, so let's get started. It just starts. Excerpt from a local newspaper. Anonymous unknown killer is still at large. First problem that I have with this, we just got one sentence into it. Why would that be in a newspaper?
So I'm fine with it opening in a newspaper. The part that kills me is the unknown. You want to talk about a writing degree? This is the shit that bothers you. Unknown is redundant. In a newspaper article, you're probably not gonna put unknown in the title when you're already working with ominous killer still at large. Also, is also redundant. You would drop is as well. That's taking up page space. You want to like use as few words as possible for a newspaper headline because you only have so much space on that piece of paper. And when you're doing big letters, you want it to be as big as possible when you're doing something like this. So it's like, just leave it as ominous killer still at large. People are going to be like, oh, fuck, what? Like, unknown it is doesn't change that response. So, ominous killer still at large, and then, like if you're going to actually, like, write out the newspaper, you would then explain the killer is unknown, which I think most people would assume that the killer is probably unknown if they're still at large, or they can't confirm the identity, but they have a suspect.
Yeah.
So, it's a little redundancy.
After weeks of unexplained murders, the ominous unknown killer, there it is again, is still on the rise. After little evidence has been found, a young boy states that he survived one of the killer's attacks and bravely tells his story. Do you want to be the little boy?
I guess I will. I'm not going to do a funny voice, though. I'll actually kill myself. I had a bad dream, and I woke up in the middle of the night, says the boy. I saw that, for some reason, the window was open, even though I remember it being closed before I went to bed. I got up and shut it once more. Afterwards, I simply crawled under my covers and tried to go back to sleep. Get back to sleep. Ugh. That's when I had a strange feeling, like someone was watching me. I looked up and nearly jumped out of my bed. There, in the little ray of light, illuminating from between my curtains, were a pair of two eyes. Those weren't regular eyes. They were dark, ominous eyes.
This guy has a problem with the word ominous.
Oh, yeah. They were bordered in black and just plain out terrified me. That's when I saw his mouth, a long, horrendous smile that made every hair on my body stand up. The figure stood there, watching me. Finally, after what seemed like forever, he said it. A simple phrase, but said it in a way only a madman can speak. This hurts. First of all, cliches. Second of all, you got enough commas there, buddy. One of the major things in my degree program was some of our teachers like actively made a point of like breaking us of using excessive commas. Like I've already noticed, like even though I'm a writer, I'm not the biggest grammar person. Like I'm not all encompassing knowledge on grammar, but it's like I'm noticing that there's grammar splices that don't need to be there, and also just unnecessary commas. Like when you're sitting there, I looked up, comma, and nearly jumped out of my bed. You don't need a comma there, dude.
Yeah, that's unnecessary.
Because also when you're putting in a comma, the reason why people comma splice is because they're trying to reflect how they're talking. And so they feel like when they pause, a comma should go there. Because sometimes that is a good rule of thumb that you technically can do it. In grammar, you're technically breaking the rules, but you can do it if you want to simulate that pausing. Most editors and whatnot are going to lose their shit, though, because they're going to be like, stop it.
Yeah. It's like writing in red pen.
Yeah.
Throughout the entire page.
It does hurt part of the readability. Like I'm sure there's a couple moments where you may have noticed where it's like the way I talk shifted after a comma.
Yep.
I would actually pause at a comma, and then it makes the sentence sound kind of weird. That's why when you proofread, you should read it out loud, and keep in mind that commas are kind of create pauses. So then if you read it and it sounds a little off, you need to fix it. I also did like autocorrect a couple words. There's like a one point where it said get, and I autocorrected it to go.
Yep.
And there's like a couple more instances of that, I think.
Yeah, we're gonna have to keep ourselves on the down low so it gives us something even more to criticize. So we're gonna have to try and keep the autocorrecting to a minimum when we can help it, because it just makes it that much better.
Also, after what seemed like forever, stop it. I will find out where you live, and I will Jeff the Killer you. Do not underestimate my power. These cliches make me want to kill people. Like, oh, there's a rage in my belly. Don't do it. It's a cliche. If it's a cliche, don't do it.
Unless it's
No, it's a cliche. And it's not actually doing anything to serve the story. And don't lie to yourself. Don't tell yourself it's serving the story just because you want to have it in there. You need to be willing to kill your babies is a phrase some of you may have heard. And what that means is there may be something you really like. You may really like that cliche, but you have to ask yourself, is this actually serving the story? No, kill it. Get rid of it. Take that baby and put it in a trash can. It doesn't need to be here.
there are only few rare instances where cliches in a story will work. This is not one of them.
Like, you can still say what this says without saying it. You know, there's other ways to do it.
Yeah.
When you do a cliche, it causes people to do that eye roll, to go, oh yeah, uh-huh.
If that's not your intention in the story, don't use it.
Yeah, and like, we already get the impression that he's lingering there because you're going into this whole in-depth explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Time is passing. You're getting a great view of this person's face because they just finished explaining what this thing looks like. You don't need to tell me what seemed like forever. You could cut that out, and I would still get that impression that he's lingering there. Like, if he popped up, and then you only had, like, you just caught a glimpse of his eyes, he didn't linger there. He was gone within an instant. But you don't have to say that. It's implied.
Yeah.
You know, at the same time, you have to keep in mind, your reader is stupid, but your reader is smarter than you give them credit. At the same time, it's weird. It's hypocritical. But
it's a real balancing act to write to the reader's perspective.
Yeah. It's very easy for you as the writer to notice your readers are missing something that you think is obvious.
Yeah.
But you have to keep in mind that you're the one that knows the story. You know the hints and what they mean. The reader doesn't. But then the reader could, like, turn around and, like, read way into something else.
Oh, yeah.
Or they might catch on to something else that you had no idea they would be able to because you weren't as obvious as you thought you were being. You know, you have to give them credit, but you also have to assume that they're fucking stupid.
Yep.
Without actually making them be like, hey, why is he spelling this out for me? You think I'm stupid? Yeah.
All right.
Back to me, I'm fairly certain. Yeah, it's the kid talking.
Yeah.
He said, go to sleep. I let out a scream. Absolutely horrifying. That's what sent him to me. He pulled up a knife, aiming at my heart. He jumped on top of my bed. I fought him back. I kicked. I punched. I rolled around, trying to knock him off me. That's when my dad busted in. The man threw the knife. It went into my dad's shoulder. The dad probably would have finished him off if one of the neighbors hadn't alerted the police. Oh, that was awkward. That hurt to read, actually.
That hurt to listen to.
Holy shit. Like, I'm pretty sure he doesn't need that. Well, I don't know. I'm not the best at semicolons, but here's a tip. Just don't use semicolons.
Yeah.
Like, you might think it's cool, you might think it makes you look literate, but 9 times out of 10, you're gonna put it in, and then a person who knows how to use a semicolon is gonna see it, and they're gonna laugh at you. Like, either the reader is not gonna care, or the person who knows how semicolons work is gonna care.
Not only that, but
That's how that goes.
Not only that, but it's the the third paragraph in air quotes in the story, and he uses 2 of them, and I think that's the only place where he uses them. Oh no, there's one further down. Never mind.
Yeah. Also, like, being dramatic enough where he's like, he cut off the previous paragraph right before he speaks, before Jeff speaks. And then he starts the next paragraph with, he said.
Yep.
It's like, and dead.
That's a
Attention
no-no.
killer. Just go ahead and if you're gonna be dramatic like that, just next line down, go to sleep. Next paragraph, I let out a scream. That's way more dramatic. That's way more effective. Going, he said, go to sleep. You've pulled me out. I'm not immersed anymore. Because I'm reminded that you're telling a story. That there's a narrator telling the story. I'm not there anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, this combat is just awkward. Like there's 2 semicolons in this paragraph alone.
Yep.
If you find yourself you're using multiple semicolons, you're either trying to find an excuse to use semicolons or you're using them wrong, more than likely.
This is a clear example of them being used wrong.
Just avoid using semicolons. Just don't do it.
He pulled up a knife, semicolon, aiming at my heart. That is not needed. That's not where it goes. Actually, there doesn't even need to be anything there. He pulled up a knife, aiming at my heart. That's it.
Also, that's also very specific to notice what they're aiming at. Most people would just be aiming at my chest.
Oh God, he's pointing a knife at me.
Or yeah, it's kind of hard to tell where a knife is aiming. Especially in the heat of the moment kind of thing like this.
Oh yeah. Especially if you're supposed to be a young boy. I mean,
also just the way this combat is written is just, it's not really combat. The way it's written is just he pulled a knife, aiming at my heart. He jumped on top of my bed. I fought him back. I kicked, I punched, I rolled around. It's very not dramatic at all. It's ultimately just kind of lame. It doesn't really have any impact.
Yeah. Also, it says he jumped. It says he jumped on the bed. When did he jump on the young boy? From this,
it doesn't actually say jumped on the boy, though. You can assume by when he jumped on the bed, he was kind of above.
Yeah.
The boy, considering the boy was in bed.
Yeah, that's true.
Also, just more comma splices.
I kicked, comma, I punched, comma, I rolled around, comma, trying to knock him off me.
Holy shit! The man would have finished him off if one of the neighbors hadn't alerted the police.
How did the police get there that quick?
Well, I'm first of all, these are some really alert-ass neighbors in the middle of the night. I can't remember, and we don't have any description yet on what kind of neighborhood they live in, but they must be in townhouses or something for the neighbors to be oh, there's something going on next door. I should call the police.
How did they know that he was there too? It doesn't say anything was broken.
As far as the neighbors are concerned, husband might have been just having a wild night with his wife. But man, they heard what ultimately was probably a minute-long scuffle, maybe a little longer.
Yeah.
And had already called the cops, and the cops had shown up. Holy shit.
That's a pretty impressive response time.
Yeah. So yeah, that was just okay, that's a little unbelievable.
Yeah.
First of all, neighbors calling the police when in danger. Hilarious. There's no way this is America.
Definitely not.
Anyways, back to the shit show.
Yep.
They drove into the parking lot and ran towards the door. The man turned and ran down the hallway. I heard a smash, like glass breaking.
Oh, finally.
I came out of my room. I saw the window that was pointing towards the back of my house was broken. I looked out it to see him vanish into the distance. I can tell you one thing. I'll never forget that face, those cold, evil eyes, and that psychotic smile. They'll never leave my head. Cliches for days.
Jeez.
It hurts me. It hurts me.
Oh man.
Like, okay, they drove into the parking lot and ran towards the door. You don't need that comma. Get rid of it. Like, that's fine. But also, like, this narrator's starting to become what we call an unreliable narrator. Either what they're saying doesn't make sense, or their level of omniscience about what's going on is starting to kind of come into question, because he apparently can see that the cops are coming into the parking lot and they're running towards the door. First of all, parking lot? Where does this dude live? Is that a parking garage across the street? I'm confused. Do you mean a driveway? I'm starting to get confused. I don't know if there's other parts in the U.S. where they actually call a driveway a parking lot, but everywhere I've lived, everybody calls a driveway, and a parking lot is a parking lot. You know, parking lot where, you know, fuck ton of vehicles go to park in a store. But it's like, man turning rain down the hallway. Fine. A little dry, but fine. I heard a smash, like glass breaking. First of all, don't tell me he heard a smash. Describe a smash to me.
I heard
glass breaking is weak as fuck.
I heard a window break.
Well, it's like, you could be like, glass shattered.
Yep.
I mean, you can use something to like describe how it sounded, or, you know, how quickly it shattered, and you can, like, there's different ways to do it. You don't have to be like glass breaking. Thanks, because I'm sure when most people think I heard a smash, they think of like either something like a plate smashing or glass smashing. Most people generally go to glass smashing when they hear smash. If it's not glass, that's generally when you go into a description of what it sounds like when it smashes. And you generally should avoid saying, I heard, or he heard. You're removing the immersion when you do that. You're pulling the reader out of the story, because you're once again reminding the reader they're not there. Somebody else is telling you this.
You are supposed to be scared of this part.
Which some might say, oh, but in the story, it is the boy, you know, explaining to the reporter or whatever, you know, his experience. And that's how he would probably explain it. That's fine and all. But this is one of those things that you toss that out the window, ironically enough, to make the story more entertaining for your actual reader.
Yeah.
Because sometimes what's more entertaining works better than what's realistic, and that's generally most of the time.
Yep.
Anyways, as I came out of my room, I saw the window that was pointing towards the back of my house was broken. So that's just some really awkward wording.
Yeah.
You can drop the as and be like, I came out of my room to see the back window was broken. A lot shorter, a lot more concise. No need of comma.
Easier to understand.
Yeah, you start adding like some redundancy, and then it starts getting weird, because you're like, I saw the window that was pointing toward, like, windows point. You don't need to be doing that. Windows don't point; they're simply on a wall. If it's a window that's at the back of the house, it is at the back of the house. You don't need to say it's pointing towards the back of the house. The back window.
You can double back on it and say the window is pointing at me as well, if you're going to start using the word points.
If you want to start getting like super scene description of where things are, tell us like the layout of the house at that point.
Yeah.
But you need to preface that at the beginning of the story, but that doesn't work here.
Nope.
I looked out it to see him vanish into the distance. It's just boring. It's bland. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I feel like, nothing.
Yeah, it's also another one of those things that's like, I saw him, you know? I saw this. I see it. Don't tell me you see it. Obviously you see it. You're fucking looking at it. You don't need to tell me that. You can be like, his faint outline vanished into the dark of night or something like that. Little dramatic, kind of edgy, kind of. But that's kind of like in the realm for the story,
Yeah.
and it works better. It's a lot more entertaining to read. I can tell you one thing: I'll never forget that face. Those cold, evil eyes and that psychotic smile. Of course, you're not gonna forget it. He tried to kill you. No shit. You don't need to tell me this. This is just like, this is you as a writer telling me that, hey, by the way, I want you to know that this guy's gonna be scarred. Okay? Really scarred. Like, this has caused him emotional damage. Like, I get it. There was an attempt on his life. I understand. It's kind of cringy. It hurts.
And then he doubles back on himself and repeats, "They will never leave my head."
Yeah.
Yeah, we get it. Thank you.
First of all, don't use they there. Use that.
Yes.
It is like, it works better. But yeah, just don't say that sentence at all. Don't tell me what the protagonist is thinking, or the character is thinking.
Okay, so it's a good thing that I started OBS as a backup because I totally forgot to start the audio recording for my main program. So it's a good thing I had that backup.
Why would you do this?
Hey, at least I backed myself up this time, so I made sure. So we don't have to go back.
Alright, so...
Okay, on with the, yeah, I'll pick up the reins. Okay. Police are still on the look for this man. Look out! If you see anyone that fits the description in this story, please contact your local police department. Yeah, I'll get right on that. I'll call 911 right now and give them the description that you just described to me. Thank you.
Well, it's like, I know we're reading like a news article, but it's like, of course the police are still looking for him. The title of the article was "Ominous Killer Still at Large." So, I guess the police stopped looking for him then, obviously. No, they're obviously still looking for him. I know it's a news article, and a news article would print that. It's just like, that's a little redundant. We know. Yeah. It's odd. This is something like normally in a story you wouldn't put, but because it's a news article, you can kind of get away with it. It's just like awkward. Well, it's not awkward per se, but it's redundant. For the reader, it's not necessary. But I would see this being a newspaper, so it's not the worst thing ever.
Yeah. I have a question now. You look at the next paragraph. Where does the newspaper article end?
It doesn't.
This entire story is all on the same newspaper.
Yeah. There's no symbolic point of being like newspaper clipping over. This is where the story is starting now.
Like,
you should be like triple dash here, something like that, or some kind of visual break other than just new paragraph. This is the part where you'd be like, that was the prologue, chapter 1. Also, don't have prologues.
No.
Start where the story starts. If your story starts and you call it a prologue, fuck you.
Okay. Jeff and his family had just moved into a new neighborhood. His dad had gotten a... Okay, that works. Had gotten a promotion at work, and they thought it would be best to live in one of those fancy neighborhoods. Jeff and his brother Lou, okay, we got an Asian kid here.
Yeah, I'm assuming Lou.
Yeah, couldn't complain though. A new, better house. What was not to love? As they were getting unpacked, one of their neighbors came by.
What's a fancy neighborhood?
What
does that mean?
Well, considering where I live, I clearly would never know. I get impressed.
Well, that's my point. Is it's like, so what does fancy entail to the writer? What is the writer trying to tell us? What is this fancy neighborhood?
What is fancy for you?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like from reader to reader, fancy's gonna be something else.
Like, I get impressed when I see a sports car driving down the road. And I'm like, that
Yeah.
guy does not live here, so...
Um, it's one of those things where it's like, if you live in like a heavily wooded area or whatnot, white suburbia might be fancy to you.
Yeah.
If you spent your entire life in suburbia, Beverly Hills is probably going to be fancy to you. You know, it's all a matter of perspective. So it's like, look, if you're going to give us descriptors of the neighborhood, just tell us what the neighborhood is like. Are we in suburbia? If I recall the rest of this story correctly, he's in suburbia.
Yeah.
So just tell us that they moved into a nice suburb, and that will tell us, okay, so whatever Jeff's parents do, they're upper middle class. Like, that'll tell us everything we need to know, other than just saying fancy. And the fact that he even puts it in quotes, it's like, or is it?
What?
Is there a hidden meaning behind fancy? Because now I'm not sure. Is it actually fancy? Maybe it's not fancy. Maybe it's being sold as fancy, but it's not really fancy. Like, maybe everything looks nice on the outside, but the houses are actually like garbage on the inside. You know, like there's an implied hidden meaning there or something.
Yeah.
It's just like just tell us what the neighborhood is like. You're just describe things.
This neighborhood is fancy. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Also, like, I don't think we need to know that his dad got a promotion. I don't think we need to know that. I don't think that's relevant to the story at all. At least so far, I don't think it is. Unless Jeff turns out to have a lot of daddy issues. But then that could be, like, introduced later. It's just like, all we have to know is that he moved into a new neighborhood.
Yeah.
Also, like, why couldn't Jeff and Lou complain? Why couldn't they complain? Why would they complain? You kind of just throw it out there, and it's like a new, better house. Sure, okay. Is that why they can't complain? It's the house is better? I don't... Is that it? Because in my experience, that's not going to stop a kid from bitching and complaining.
Yeah, I never had to move, so I am horribly inexperienced in this.
Also, like, what was not to love? Well, is there something to love? Is there stuff to hate? I don't know. I don't have enough descriptions. I can't say for sure. You're just telling me, and you're asking me a question you don't expect me to respond to. So I'm like, what was not to love? I don't know, writer. You tell me. You're the one writing the story. I don't know. And then, of course, comma splice. As they were getting unpacked, one of the neighbors came by.
Yeah.
Because with the comments, like, as they were getting unpacked, one of their neighbors came by, which technically works, but it's like you can get rid of the comma and it's just fine. As they were getting unpacked, one of the neighbors came by.
Yeah.
So yeah, redundancy, poor descriptions. Come on, get good.
It will get worse.
Yeah. Do you want to continue or should I?
I'll continue.
Okay.
Hello, she said. Oh, it's a she. Okay. I'm glad we established that. I'm Barbara. I live across the street from you. Well, I just wanted to introduce She has a self that she wants to introduce. And to introduce my son. She turns around. Okay, quick second. Are you, English degree. Are you allowed to change tenses in the middle of a story?
No. Changing tenses is a pain in the ass. Don't do it. It confuses people. It sounds bad. Most people subconsciously notice it, but they can't always call it out. And then they're like, this is hurting my brain and I don't know why.
Yep. She turns around and calls her son over. Billy, these are our new neighbors. Billy said hi and ran back to play in his yard. He owns the entire yard? I want to be that kid.
Yeah, that should be their yard. Also, like she just said a lot of she said hello, did not wait for the neighbor to say hello, and then she just continued on. Oh, Barbara, I live across the street. Well, I just wanted to introduce myself. Also, myself should be one word. Also obligatory. I want to introduce my son. This is how I know we're in suburbia.
That kid
Like
wants nothing to do
cliche
with
as
it.
fuck. Our kids should play together. You know, oh, your son will love my son. No, he absolutely won't. I don't even remember this Billy kid from this story. I hardly remember the story, and I can already tell you these kids are not going to get along. I'm like 9 out of 10. They're not. It's not going to happen. They're not going to get along. It's going to be a fucking shit show. But yeah.
Well, we already know
Barbara-
the basic idea of this story, so of course it's going to be a shit show. But
Yeah, but it's like tent shifting. It's like, well, you should always keep the reader on their toes. Like, even if they know what kind of story they're reading, you should always try your best to surprise them, anyways.
yeah,
But it's like, yeah, the tent shifting. She said all of this in the past tense, and then mid-dialogue, it becomes present tense. She turns around and calls her son over. This is currently actively happening. And then it goes back to being in past tense with Billy said hi and ran back to play in his yard.
it's
As I
the
mentioned
same paragraph. How? Just look
Yeah.
at what you did before.
Yeah. It's just like,
All right.
like,
Okay.
Alright, do you want to continue?
Yeah.
Or-
I'll keep going. Well, said Jeff's mom, I'm Margaret, and this is my husband Peter, and my 2 sons, Jeff and Lou. They introduced themselves, and then Barbara invited them to her son's birthday. Ugh! Jeff and his brother were about to object, when their mother said that they would love to. When Jeff and his family are done packing, that should be unpacking probably, Jeff went up to his mom.
So apparently everybody in this household felt the need to answer the door together. This is weird. If I was a neighbor and I went to say hello, and this family of 4 opened the door and they were all standing there in like formation, I'd be like, I'm gonna go.
I don't know about
I don't want to know you anymore because that's fucking creepy.
I don't know about anyone else, but anytime I hear someone knocking on the door, I hide. Like I don't answer the door.
But yeah, like turn around and they each introduce themselves. Why would they each introduce themselves when the mom just straight up went, I'm Margaret. This is my husband Peter. This is Jeff and Lou. Why would they all need to then introduce themselves? She's already introduced them.
I know the head of the household already told you who we are, but let me just go ahead and tell you who I am, just in case she got it wrong.
Yeah. And then, of course, Barbara invited them to the son's birthday. Obligatory, you should come out. Come hang out or whatever. Rather than just saying, hey, we should hang out sometime. And then never follow through on that.
Yep.
And then, of course, Jeff and the brother wanted to object. Yeah, the unpacking needs to be fixed. Also, when Jeff and his family are done packing, Jeff went up to his mom. That's also like kind of a tensing issue, cause like things are ending as things are starting. It's kind of weird. It's like Jeff went up to his mom. That's present. That is presently happening. But it's also like happening after a thing is happening, and they should be, first of all, they should just be separate sentences of things happening.
Jeff strolled up to his mother like a boss.
Yeah, and it's just like the packing should be, they should just stated that they finished unpacking.
Yeah.
And then later, Jeff went up to his mom. Yeah, it's weak.
All right. Who wants to be Jeff?
I'll be Jeff, I guess.
Oh boy.
Oh no. Oh wait, no. This is okay. Okay, yeah, no. Okay.
You got it?
I skipped a paragraph because I didn't. This is the first time we have like a single line. Mom, why would you invite us to some kid's party? You fucking know why, you cunt. If you haven't noticed, I'm not some dumb kid. I'm not some dumb kid cliche.
That is in some strong contention, buddy.
First of all, I'm having a hard time not hearing this like uber sassy cunty kid voice in my head of being like, "Why would you invite us to some kid's party?"
God, I'm not some.
Haven't noticed? I'm not some dumb kid.
God.
You fucking are if you're saying that.
God, Mom, you're intruding on my life. Come on.
Yeah, like I'm not sure if this is actually a kid or some edgelord teenager who is really like kind of like this flunky kid, but he thinks he's better than everybody else.
I have a feeling that's exactly what Jeff is.
And it's like also like, why would you invite us to some kid's party? You fucking know why. If you're not some dumb kid, you would have this shit figured out already why she did it. But clearly you are fucking stupid because you said that and yet you can't figure out why she invited you to the party. Also, she didn't invite you. She told you you were going after the mother invited the family to come. So, cry about it?
Hey, Mom, why are you having a birthday party?
Yeah. Fucking stupid ass dialogue is stupid and reveals why the protagonist and or antagonist. I'm really not sure how to feel about Jeff right now as a protagonist slash antagonist.
I think he just exists in a vacuum.
Which you shouldn't do realistically.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Jeff,
Back to
said his mother, we just moved here. We should show that we want to spend time with our neighbors. Now we're going to that party, and that's final. Jeff started to talk, but stopped himself, knowing that he couldn't do anything. Whenever his mom said something, it was final. He walked up to his room and plopped down on his bed. He sat there looking at his ceiling when suddenly he got a weird feeling. Not so much a pain, but a weird feeling. Very descriptive. He dismissed it as just some random feeling. He heard his mother call him down to get his stuff, and he walked down to get it. So he walked up to go back down.
First of all, that's final cliche. Fucking, I want to have a mom character. Should I make them an interesting human being? Or should I just make them a stereotypical mom character? That actually, like, I just want to be present, but not actually have anything interesting going on. Yeah, that sounds like a great read. Not interesting at all. So, typical shitty mom dialogue is typical and shitty. Also, Jeff started to talk. Please no. Stop. Your writing is bad and you should feel bad. Nothing starts. Nothing begins. None of that. You are either, the character is either doing something or they are not doing something. They are not starting to do something. Something is not beginning to happen. It is happening or it is not happening. There is no in between. There is no prep cycle. There is none of that. It happens or it doesn't. Because it is weak, first of all, to say start. But it's like saying so-and-so started to run. What the fuck does that look like? I get this image of somebody who's starting to sprint, but they're just freeze-framed, and they're not sprinting.
Here, let me just start my run, and then I'll just freeze in midair and not do anything else.
Because, you know, instead of saying Jeff started to talk, but stopped himself, you would write, Jeff kept quiet, knowing that he couldn't do anything. You're telling us when you do that he does want to say something. You're accomplishing what you're trying to accomplish here, but it actually fucking works. He wants to say something, but he knows it won't matter, so he has resigned himself to silence. Instead of saying started to talk, if you actually wanted him to start to talk, you would start a new dialogue where Jeff goes, but dash or I dash or whatever, and then like write it like he's being interrupted, and then say Jeff decided it was better to not say anything, or something to that extent, which you probably shouldn't even say that. But you know, if you want to simulate them starting to say something, actually have the dialogue start, because he's starting to say something but no words come out. Just say he's resigned to silence, or something to that effect. Don't say he started to talk. That suggests he's actually making noise. Because as far as we're concerned now, he's just going, silence. That's what this is suggesting right now. Because he started to talk, but no words are coming. As far as I know, he's making incoherent noises. Also, expositional fucking writing is exponential. Expositional. Whenever his mom said something, it was final. Fantastic. So you just gave us exposition behind something you already told us. Knowing he couldn't do anything. Whenever mom said something, it was final. No shit, you just told us that in a different way. Quit wasting my time. This is a redundant sentence. Trash. Get it out of here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 words you wasted on telling us something we already know. Also, okay, walked up to his room and plopped down on his bed. Sure, fine, whatever. Boring, but fine. Sat there looking at a ceiling. Suddenly, oh my god, suddenly, guys. I don't have a problem with things happening suddenly. But you know what I have a problem with? Adverbs. You know why? Because the road to hell is paved in adverbs. Don't do it. If it has an ly on the end of it, get rid of it. You don't need it. There's a stronger verb you can use. Action verbs. Things are happening. If you're using very as a descriptor, or you use anything with an ly to modify things, stop it. You're making your writing sound amateurish by doing it. And it's also making your sentences weaker by doing it. He got a weird feeling. Okay, that's fine. He got a weird feeling. We're getting things from his perspective. Get rid of suddenly. Like, ultimately, the sentence is fine. If he just wrote it as, he sat there looking at his ceiling when he got a weird feeling. I would personally go for strange feeling there, because weird is kind of like, I don't know, weird feels a little bit more ambiguous. But that might just be me. That's a personal choice kind of thing. It's ultimately up to you, but strange also flows better with the sentence.
But we're trying to be mysterious.
Yeah. But then it's like weird / strange feeling. It's fine. Follow it up with, not so much a pain. Well, I hope not, because then you would have just told me he had a pain. And you told me where the pain was originating from. So I already know it's not a pain. So you've just wasted 5 words telling me something I already know. But, ... First of all, don't use ellipses. Don't do this. No. You think you're creating dramatic tension? You're not. You're really not.
You're going to love Sonic.exe then.
I'm going to kill myself. What? ... A weird feeling. Great. Another 4 words and a poor attempt at creating tension to tell us something we already know. He dismissed it as just some random feeling. Does it matter or not, writer? Does this strange feeling matter? Because you made a point to call it out, and then you're just having the character dismiss it. It matters or it doesn't. If it matters, the character should not be dismissing it. Or the character should actually have a reason to dismiss it. The character should be actively be like, what is this weird feeling? And then gets interrupted by the mother. Don't be like, whatever, it's fine. And then get called for the mother. Like, if the character's actively investigating what this feeling is and then gets interrupted, that will actually create tension, because we're like, but we want to know what it is! And now you're making me wait! But you blew it. You blew it. You missed the train. Also, they unpacked, but he has to go get his stuff. Where did they unpack his stuff? Did they unpack his room, like, in the living room? And then they're moving all of his stuff up to his room? This makes no sense! And of course he walked down to go get it. Like,
Let me just float down.
redundancy. Just fucking redundancy.
Let me
Everywhere.
levitate. I'll use my powers to get it. The next day, Jeff walked downstairs to get breakfast and got ready for school. Did he change in the kitchen? As he sat there, eating his breakfast, he once again got that feeling. This time it was stronger. It gave him a slight tugging pain. We'll get back to that. But he once again dismissed it. As he and Lou finished breakfast, they walked down to the bus stop. They sat there waiting for the bus, and then, all of a sudden, some kid on a skateboard jumped over them, only inches above their laps. They both jumped back in surprise. Hey, what the hell? Who said that?
I'm assuming both of them. But, this is bad.
So was it a weird feeling, or was it a pain?
Oh, yeah, first of all, that. Is it not pain? Like you said, it wasn't a pain. Now it is a pain? Make up your fucking mind. Like, I get it. You're trying to be edgy. You're probably like some early teenager who's like, oh yeah, mental illness, so cool. You know, I'm gonna fantasize about it with my super edgy serial killer-esque character. Fucking stop. Like, look. If you're gonna make somebody a serial killer, they just fucking are. They don't need weird stomach pains or whatnot. They're just fucked in the head, okay? Like, do not try to rationalize it. Don't make it try to sound cool. You know, you should actually be emulating real serial killers, not your weird, fantastical bullshit. But there'll probably be more on that later.
Definitely.
But as he sat there, eating his breakfast, he once again had that feeling. Why not be like, the feeling returned while eating breakfast?
Dun dun dun.
Shorter, stronger. It's more effective. This time it was stronger. Okay, that's fine. If the sentence before it was a little stronger, this would be fine. It's kind of dramatic, it's short, it's sweet, it's to the point.
Fair.
You don't have to describe, though, it gave him a slight tugging pain, because that creates the conflict of interest. Well, was it a pain or not? Cut that out. But he once again dismissed it. You should be like, it's stronger this time. If he's noticing it's stronger, you should be like, he tried to ignore it. Or something like that. But there's a lot of as. Like, this guy says as a lot.
Oh, yeah.
As he and Lou finished breakfast, they walked down to the bus stop. So, are you telling me, like, first of all, we don't even know what they're having for breakfast. So, as far as I know, they could have, picked up bowls of cereal and proceeded to walk down the street and continue to eat breakfast while they're walking down the street. Or are you the anime edgelord who's like, nah, they ran down the street with a slice of toast in their mouths?
But it says...
I don't know what that means. They finished breakfast as they finished breakfast. This is happening at the same time as they're walking down the street to the bus stop.
But it also says as he sat there, so they weren't walking down the street, they were levitating in their chairs.
Oh, no, yeah, the pain thing is as he's sitting there. But then they're finishing breakfast, walking down. Like, so some amount of time has passed.
Oh, I'm glad it was so clear.
But yeah, they sat there waiting for the bus, and then all of a sudden,
We
you're
couldn't
wasting
expect this.
words.
We
You're
couldn't
wasting
hear.
words.
We couldn't hear the
But yeah.
skateboard.
Also, suddenly out of nowhere, a kid on skateboard jumping over you. Fuck you, writer. This isn't an anime. This isn't a cartoon. This isn't a movie. People are going to hear a skateboard coming. Fuck you. Nope. Like, unless that kid just, like, quietly snuck up behind them, put the skateboard down as quietly as he could, and then from a standstill, jumped that skateboard over them, fuck you, they would have heard it. 'Cause that's the only way they wouldn't. So fuck you. It's bullshit. I see right through you. Obviously, they both jump back in surprise. Surprise, surprise. Ah, skateboard. Ah, terrifying.
Dick, you can be the kid, but we'll just get through this. The kid landed and turned back to them. He kicked his skateboard up and caught it with his hands. Okay. The kid seems to be about 12, 1 year younger than Jeff. He wears an Aeropostale shirt and ripped blue jeans. So much edge, so much cringe.
First of all, Aeropostale. Bam. Do not name brands. Do not. Really do not. It is a very thin sheet of ice when it comes to naming things by name.
If you're going to name a brand, make up your own.
Obviously, you know, you're not writing this for money or whatever, but at the end of the day, just avoid it. Just avoid it. Do not, because you don't want to get in the habit of, like, calling out brands and whatnot. Also, I don't give a fuck if this cunt's wearing an You know, you can describe this shirt, and then through the description, give me the feeling of, like, oh, an Aeropostale shirt. Okay. If you really want to give a name brand, make something up that is like, this is obviously poking fun at this. You know? Also, ripped blue jeans. Okay. I see we are stereotyped the story right now. Yeah, it's like, okay, sure, I guess. Also, you could have saved yourself this awkward line of kid seems to be about 12, 1 year younger than Jeff. You could save yourself some trouble there. Just tell us how old Jeff is earlier in the story and be like, this kid seems to be around his age, and then just never explain, like, exactly. Because it's kind of weird to be like, seems about 12, a year younger than Jeff. Why not just be like, he's around Jeff's age, and then just have us know how old Jeff is beforehand? Because that's kind of weird. It's expositional. You're taking time to be like, he's about 12, which, by the way, Jeff's 13.
Yeah.
Now that I'm ready to tell you that information now for some reason.
We need to keep this in mind as the story progresses. This will give you some what the fuck moments.
Yeah. All right.
Please keep in mind.
Yeah. Well. Looks like we got some new meat. Cliche. Suddenly, two other kids appeared. Fucking, what are they? Fucking ninjas? One was super skinny and the other was huge. Go fucking figure. Well, since you're new here, I'd like to introduce ourselves. Over here is Keith. Jeff and Lou look over to the skinny kid. Why am I not surprised? He had a dopey face that you would expect a sidekick to have. And he's Troy. Is there an army hiding in him? They looked over at the fat kid. Talk about a tub of lard.
Jesus Christ.
Fucking alright. This kid looked like he hadn't exercised since he was crawling. Holy shit, we get it. He's fat. Fuck. Holy shit. Fucking Christ, man. Look, you're gonna rail on the fat guy, roll on anorexic Keith over here. Holy shit.
No, that's
Keith looks like he hasn't eaten since 2 months ago. Like, fuck, if you're gonna like start hating on people, at least be equal opportunist. Fuck Christ. What the fuck did Troy do other than be a ninja? Also, he's apparently this fat and showed up out of nowhere. So, like, in my head, I've got, like, if you ever watch Naruto, I'm just, like, in my head, it's like ninja smoke, they're suddenly behind me. Like, this smoke just, like, bursts out of nowhere, and then they're suddenly standing there, like, arms crossed. And, like, boss music starts playing, and it's like, what the fuck is happening? Also, suddenly, there's another adverb. Go fuck yourself, kid. Also, well. Looks like we got some new meat. Lame. Weak. Here's my name tag that says unexpected, kind of, sort of, well, completely expected. Sort of antagonist bully character archetype. Yeah. I'm gonna heck you up, kid. Yeah. Take me seriously. No. Go fuck yourself.
Cue sarcastic clapping.
Super skinny. There are so many stronger ways that you can describe this. Lanky, as a one word. You want to describe somebody super skinny? Lanky, especially if they're tall. Stuff like that. Like, don't say super as an add-on to making something sound specifically worse. If he's just skinny, just say skinny. If he's more than skinny, find a stronger way of describing it other than super or very or extremely or any other adverb.
And not how you describe the fat kid. I mean, Jesus Christ.
It's like, you already told us the fat kid was huge. That's all we need to know. We've all been to school. We've all seen that one kid. We've all been in public before. Everybody has at least seen one fat person in their lifetime. But no. You turn around, you're like, by the way, he's fat. A tub of lard. He hasn't exercised since he was crawling. Go fuck yourself. Holy shit. Is there something you want to talk about? What you sit on as a kid? Like, I'm starting to think there might be some damage between you and fat people.
Psychological projection. Look it up.
Yeah. And of course, it's like the skinny kid has a dopey face. Go figure. Like, stereotypes the paragraph.
Yep.
Stereotypes the story. Really, this is really bad.
Until it gets to a certain point.
Yeah. Anyways, and I said the first kid am Randy. You want to give somebody a cunty name? Randy. Like, first of all, who hates their kid enough to name them Randy? Second of all, name like an actual like good person character in any story you've read by the name of Randy. Go ahead.
Never.
Because I can't think of any. Anyways, now for all the kids in this neighborhood, there's a small price for bus fare. If you catch my drift. Okay. Lou set up, ready to punch the lights out of the kid's eyes when one of his friends pulled a knife on him. Tisk, tisk, tisk. I had hoped you would be more cooperative, but it seems we must do this the hard way. The kid walked up to Lou and took his wallet out of his pocket. Jeff got that feeling again. Now it was truly strong, a burning sensation. He stood up, but Lou gestured him to sit down. Jeff ignored him and walked up to the kid. Oh my god. First of all, this is a lot of stuff happening in one paragraph. So, like, generally speaking, when you do dialogue, you do the dialogue in the actions for the person talking. Next paragraph. Other person talking / other person dialogue. Next paragraph. Other person doing stuff. Running in a, like, unless you're doing a straight up, like, combat where there's just fighting, you should be separating out, especially when dialogue is involved, because people are going to get confused who's talking. But holy shit, like, these kids are straight up like extorting people getting on the bus. It's a school bus, right? Like, I'm assuming it's a school bus. They haven't actually said it's a school bus.
Yeah.
But how has this kid been getting away with taking a knife to people and getting their money at a school bus stop? Also, This is a very questionable racket, considering it's him and these two other boys here, and Jeff and Lou are the two new people on the street, and there are no other kids at this bus stop. Who else is he robbing? His friends? Is he robbing Keith and Troy over here every day? And now suddenly Keith and Troy are cool because there's fresh meat? I don't understand. This doesn't make sense.
We work for Randy because we're scared of him.
You know, it's like, okay, you need to get this straight. Is he robbing other kids too, or is he doing it just to these guys? And if he's doing it just to these guys, this is fucking extreme. Like, this is a whole new level. So clearly he's been doing this before. Also, tisk, tisk, tisk. I had hoped you would be more cooperative. All right, stereotypical dialogue is stereotypical and boring.
Yep.
Also, that's like a lot to happen in one sentence where he's like ready to punch the lights out of the kid's eyes when one of his friends pulled a knife on him. Why not be like, he stood up with his fists clenched? That says everything it needs to say.
Mm-hmm.
This is way too specific. Like, do people have a face, like a very specific face of, like, I'm gonna punch his lights out?
Here's a question.
And then just, oh, what?
One of his friends pulled a knife on him. So did Keith or Troy pull a knife on Randy?
Pulling a knife on Lou, I'm assuming that's part of the problem, because
Yeah.
it's Randy's dialogue, but then it's Lou's action on the same paragraph. These need to be separate, because that confusion will happen.
Yep.
Because you're not sure what the him is referring to, but because of the sentence, we know him is referring all the way back to Lou.
Yeah.
But that can cause a confusion because we're having Randy's dialogue right before that's happening in the same paragraph.
Who's the him?
Also, it's like the him could possibly be referring to the kid's eye, like the owner of the kid's eyes. So it could be referring to Randy. But it should be referring to Lou.
Yeah.
And instead of just saying one of the friends, we know who the friends are. We know they're Troy and Keith. You can tell us which one it is. I bet it was Troy, because fuck Troy, apparently. Troy's the real villain. So then, the kid, which one? You've already introduced them to us. You don't need to say the kid. They're all kids. Which one? There's 5 of them here. We all know their names. Which one did it? Just straight up walks up and takes the wallet out of his pocket. I mean, if Lou was ready to start punching people, I would like to think that if a guy who was holding a knife came up to me and was able to, like, put his hand in my pocket, first of all, is this guy fucking psychic? He knows which pocket has the wallet? Like, I know stereotypically you're supposed to put your wallet in the back left pocket.
I never do
but
that.
I know I don't do that.
Yeah.
I know people have a tendency to swap which pockets they put their wallet in and whatnot. It's like, is this kid psychic, or is he sitting there like visibly rooting around in this kid's pants and all of his pockets, trying to find his fucking wallet?
I'm gonna frisk
also,
you.
This kid's like, they're 12 and 13. What money is he gonna have on him? I don't know about you, but I didn't regularly carry money when I was that age.
Let me count out how much money I have right now. I have 55 cents.
I have like $10, I think, in my wallet. Which, sure, like 12 or 13-year-old, $10 probably like a decent amount.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm in college. That's also a lot of cash for me to be carrying around, because I almost never have cash. So I'm kind of wondering what time frame, like what year is this taking place? Also, some people might make the argument, well, his lunch money. I'm like, bitch, all of my lunch money was electric when I was in elementary school. When I was in kindergarten, we already had accounts that our parents dispensed money into for us. We didn't carry money. There was no lunch money to pocket off of somebody. Anyways, Jeff got that feeling again. All right, that's fine, I guess. Weak, could be stronger, but all right.
We'll go with it.
Now it was truly strong. Adverb. Stop it. Now it's a burning sensation. Make up your fucking mind. It's either weird, painful, or burning. Quit changing it. Be consistent. None of the shit makes sense. Stood up, but Lou. Oh yeah, which I forgot to mention. Like, guy rifling through his pockets, holding a knife, and he's close enough to be shoving his hand in his pockets. Lou's ready to take action. Like, maybe he's scared of the knife, which is understandable.
Yeah.
But Lou is close enough at this point where he could grab the hand holding the knife and gain control of the knife, essentially. Like, he may not be able to, like, get the knife in his own hands, but he can, like, lock down that arm and, like, try to force him to drop the knife or whatever, essentially.
Yep.
Sure, they're outnumbered, but it's like, if he thought he was in a life or death scenario, realistically, he could do something about it right now, training or no.
Yep.
Anyways, stood up. Lou gestured him to sit down. Jeff just straight up walks up to this kid. Like, and this is the part where it's like, you need to describe where people are standing and whatnot, because I'm assuming Lou just stood up right next to Jeff.
Yep.
Like, I would assume they're just right next to each other. So why does Jeff need to walk up to the kid? Also, which kid? There's 5 people! Specify! Fuck! Anyways. Listen here, you little punk. Give back my bro's wallet or else. Randy put the wallet in his pocket and pulled out his own knife. Put that sentence in a separate paragraph. Fuck you! Stop putting other people's actions with other people's dialogue, especially when you're not saying who's saying it. Because now I have the impression it's Randy saying, listen here, you little punk, give back my bro's wallet or else, which makes no fucking sense. Because I'm tying that dialogue to Randy doing something, which gives me the impression Randy is doing something while saying this.
I just have the image.
Get some knives.
I just have the image now of Randy just standing there, and he's arguing with himself like he has a split personality. Hey, do this. No, I'm gonna do this. No.
Yeah. I also want to know who these kids' parents are, because I want to know how the hell these kids are getting these hands on their knives, and they're going to school with these knives.
Yeah.
I want to know how the hell they're getting away with this. Like, you know, I've been through school. I know people can get away with some pretty stupid shit. But it's like, how has this not, like, been reported at all? Because these guys clearly are not discreet. They're doing this on the side of the street in the morning. In
broad daylight near a bus stop.
Yeah. So yeah. Because the reason why I read that is I thought Randy was saying that. He's not actually saying that. He is saying this, though. Oh, and what will you do? Just as he finished the sentence, Jeff popped the kid in the nose. Which kid? As Randy reached for his face, Jeff grabbed the kid's wrist, which kid, and broke it. Randy screamed, and Jeff grabbed the knife from his hand. Troy and Keith rushed Jeff, but Jeff was too quick. He threw Randy to the ground. Keith lashed out at him, but Jeff ducked and stabbed him in the arm. Keith dropped his knife and fell to the ground screaming. Troy rushed him too. But Jeff didn't even need the knife. He just punched Troy straight in the stomach, and Troy went down. As he fell, he puked all over. Lou could do nothing but look in amazement at Jeff. This poor Troy kid cannot catch a break. You know? Like, maybe we just need a story about Troy. Because, holy shit. He doesn't even get to get stabbed. He just gets punched in the gut and he's done. Like, that's not how that works. Just because he's fat doesn't mean you can punch him in the gut and that's just the vomit button. Fuck you. That's not how that works. But it's like, yeah, the constant, like, the kid. Which one? There's 5 of them.
You already named them.
Yeah. Also, how the fuck did he break this kid's wrist? What did he do? That he straight up just, like, grabbed his wrist and just, like, snap. Just with his bare hands. Without any resistance.
To be fair, it is pretty easy to break bones with the right amount of pressure, but yeah, there's no mention of
Yeah.
what he did, how he did it.
This kid isn't trained. Like, as far as we know, he doesn't have any martial skills whatsoever. So he's just straight up, like, fucking anime protagonist level, just, like, grabs wrist with, like, a blank face, breaks it. Like, fucking whatever. And then, of course, Randy screams. Jeff grabs the knife. Troy and Keith rush Jeff. Jeff's too quick. Of course, you know, you have some guy in the background going, "Nani! At speed!" Dramatic anime music is playing. He throws Randy to the ground. I don't know why he bothers. Randy is incapacitated. Randy's shitting himself because his wrist is broken. He's screaming his head off. He is distracted. You should be done with Randy by this point. Like, Keith lashed out at him, but Jeff ducked and stabbed him in the arm. All right, like, sure, I guess. And then Keith drops his knife and falls to the ground screaming. Like, I'm sure getting stabbed in the arm hurts. But I think the writer's underestimating the power of adrenaline.
Yeah.
Because while getting stabbed sucks, sometimes adrenaline's enough to just ignore that shit. So,
unlike
also,
someone breaking your wrist. Yeah, I'll just walk
Yeah.
that off.
yeah. And then Troy rushes him too, but Jeff doesn't even need the knife. This is like Keith and Troy. This is just super protagonist syndrome, where you want your protagonist to be super edgy and cool when it's convenient to be. So it's like Keith and Troy, I'm assuming, are standing next to each other and run at him at the same time. Keith apparently gets to him first because he's not a fucking fat lard, apparently. And gets wrecked. I'm assuming Troy is either just so fat that he's taking forever to go those couple feet, or has decided to stop part of the way and wait for Jeff to finish off Keith before he does anything.
I don't know if this guy has...
outnumbered. Actually have the fight reflect that.
I don't know if this guy has ever seen a 2v1 fight, but I have practiced in that,
That shit is totally one
format.
Like,
they're coming
shit's
at
hard.
you. They're not pausing.
yeah. You know, like, just because one of them has a knife doesn't mean they're gonna, like, stay back and be like, "This isn't my fight." Like, this isn't a fucking anime, you know?
Yeah.
You're not gonna have this shit where he's like, Troy isn't gonna sit there, like, Troy and Keith aren't gonna run up to him, and Keith isn't gonna be like, "Ha! You beat up our boss, so now we have to beat you for our boss's sake." And then Keith's not gonna then be like, "Stay back, Troy. I got this." Whips out Switchblade.
Like-
And then Troy's not gonna just cross his arms and stand off to the side and just be like, "Huh, he's no match for Keith."
Like, if
then,
anything...
Yeah.
If anything, one of them is going to be holding Jeff while the other is beating the shit out of him.
Yeah,
Like-
exactly. Like, I'm honestly surprised this didn't go the route of, and then Troy fell over on his side and just rolled over Jeff and killed him. Troy's been getting shit on so hard that I'm surprised Troy just didn't just crush and kill Jeff with his So honestly, if Troy is running, Jeff is dead. Okay? If you get a fat guy to run, what stays in motion, like, what's in motion is going to stay in motion unless stopped. And from what I understand, Jeff isn't big enough to stop Troy. Jeff's gonna lose this fight, realistically.
It's
But
like,
instead, he's apparently One Punch Man.
from the way the author described Troy, I'm now thinking of the fat Asian guy that showed up in the movie John Wick Chapter 2. I don't know if you've seen that, but
Yeah,
it's what I'm thinking of now.
yeah. And then just Lou, like, just staring in amazement, and Jeff just being like, "That's impossible." Nani? Like, fucking. I think the person who wrote this has watched too much anime.
Yeah.
Because this is like a very, very anime kind of wish fulfillment way of writing things. Not specifically anime, but specifically shonen anime,
Yeah.
which is very wish fulfillment against all odds, no matter what the protagonist can pull out of this kind of writing.
Yeah.
Except it just doesn't work here. Because in most shonen, the protagonist has something in their favor. In Naruto, for example, Naruto has 9 tails. In Bleach, Ichigo has his hollow self. In Attack on Titan, Eren has a shifter form.
Yep.
You know, like, they all have something that gives them that edge. But that's just not fucking present here. And if you try to tell me it's his serial killer instinct, go fuck yourself. Serial killers hone their craft. Don't believe me? Go fuck yourself.
All right.
That's why they're a serial killer.